This is Roger Struckoff with Syscon TV, Day 2 at Cloud Expo, Things Expo, DevOps Summit, Santa Clara Convention Center. We're joined now by Yasser Khan, who's the Chief Technology Officer at Connect2Me. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Nice to meet
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about the company a little bit. What's your company all about?
So Connect2Me is basically a game changer in the IoT industry. What we have done is we have created an IoT connector middleware which can enable connection to any kind of device or API dynamically. So in place of using the traditional model of creating and coding adapters, you can use our layer and it can talk to hundreds and thousands of devices and APIs.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of devices out there. So
Yeah.
you're trying to... Now, is this something... How do you keep up with this? Because the number of devices is going to keep going up.
Right. So what we have done in the IoT connector layer, Connect2Me, we've built the intelligence where it can actually sense the native protocol and the data format.
Okay.
And then the native support of those devices. So in terms of like extraction of data, creating a reliable connection, securing the connection, as well as being able to control the device. Based on the native capability of device, without putting a client on it, we can enable it to exist in our ecosystem and get instantiated maybe 1,000 times or 10,000 times for a particular project implementation.
What sort of devices? You're talking about different kinds. Could you give us sort of like a catalog of,
right.
of what you're looking at?
So for example, it could be health devices like a wearable I'm wearing right now.
Okay.
The industry is exploding with wearables, especially in the activity tracker scenario.
Yes.
And health metrics. So a company which is trying to monetize by building support in a mobile app or in their IoT platform, they have to go in and natively support all these different providers. With using C2M, Connect2Me, they instantly have access or capability to connect to disparate devices coming out in this field. Same way, you go to fleet management and you have OBD2s which can connect under the dashboard, and that can track your vehicle and the information coming from the computer on board the vehicle. So with that same situation, you have multiple providers. We can seamlessly connect to any of those and transfer the information. So we are agnostic to the type of IoT device. It's a robot or it's a sensor or it's a, like even something like Nest, smoke alarm or thermostat. We can, so we can provide capabilities.
So how long have you been working at this? How long has the company been around?
So we are part of Plasma, which has been around for the last 12 years. And Connect2Me is something we have been working for the last 3 years. And we've kind of created an ecosystem where not only you can do the connection, but you can also do analytics and visualization on top of it.
Okay, now how do you approach your customers and convince them that this is what you need to do?
Right. So the customer has two choices when it comes to implementing something in the IoT arena or M2M arena or building enterprise apps. They can go and program everything with all these disparate sources of data and control and APIs, and which can get very complicated once you start scaling up to many different providers, because they always have game-changing interfaces and your application stops working. Or you can work with our interface where we are only publishing one standardized API layer, and then you talk to that and we talk to every other provider out there. We can talk to API providers in social enterprise space, the devices, the databases, and we can then aggregate that information.
Talk about M2M a little bit. Is this sometimes I think people equate that with industrial innovation, but I think there's more to it than that. What are you looking at with M2M? What sort of applications and devices?
Right, that's a very good question. So the M2M space has been there in the industry for many decades, and it usually applies to infrastructure and enterprise infrastructure control. It might be related to thermal plants or railway tracks or infrastructure lines being managed in real time. But with the advent of IoT, that access of that technology is going from realms of huge hundreds of $1 million project implementation to smaller organization being able to implement in our everyday life. So it's having an impact for a common man, a small business, a mid-sized business, before they could not dream of doing that.
Right, and then you talk about intelligence and monitoring and analysis. What's the ecosystem like there? What role do you play?
So our role is an enabler. So what we are doing is we are providing the acceleration in implementation of these solutions. So, in our platform, somebody can prototype a connectivity to a disparate pieces of devices and then build whatever solution layer they want to build on top of it in days and weeks, in place of going through the traditional model of integrating all these providers one at a time and then tracking them. So
you're just at the beginning of growth, it seems to me. What are you looking at, like the next 5 years? You must be looking at tremendous growth and opportunity.
I think the opportunity is great. The bigger opportunity I feel is in implementing solutions specific for different verticals. Okay. And so having a solution which can enable multiple verticals from the same place empowers system integrators and solution providers and telco carriers to go out there and sell these solutions and make them commonplace,
Okay. So, pretty simple to remember, Connect2Me, I think. That's what you do. We've been sitting here for a few minutes with Yasser Khan, who's the CTO, Chief Technology Officer of Connect2Me, who's all about the IoT and the sort of easy way to connect these thousands of different devices. And it's just going to get more complex, and they're just going to keep making it more simple. That's one way to look at it. Thank you much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. For Syscon TV, this is Roger Struckhoff.